Right, so this evening I'm looking at developing a sketch of the woodland, which I'll be developing over summer on a very large scale. So my ideas today is looking at the composition, looking at the colors, looking at the rhythm of the trees, planning some of the exciting colors, some of the gorgeous blues, some of the paler shadows of blues on the snow, and the nice, lovely, gorgeous dark blues of them at the back. So I'm really excited looking at those patterns. Maybe I'll put this in here. That's what I'll do. Brilliant. So you can see it a bit as well. Fantastic. No, you can't quite see it there. Okay. And it's folding here. Okay, something like that. Okay, I'm going to hold it. Right, so my first steps are going to be to sketch an overall design for my painting. I'm going to have one of my thinner brushes. Okay, it's here. I'm using some white, ochre and violet to produce a soft, runny paint I can sketch with. Quite a bit of it, nice and light, so I can move my brush freely. So let's start. I have a very important tree here, and let's just work around that shape. So that's going to be a big chunk of a tree, almost as if I'm looking right at it. I can see its lower part. And then I have a nice rhythm of the other two trees. I have another dark tree. I need to balance out how much space I've got here on the left between one tree and between another one. Let's just shrink that space down a bit more. So this is going to be another dark tree, but it's going to be reasonably low, maybe about up to here. In comparison to this one's coming off the board here completely. Okay, there's another tree, maybe even tiny bit more lower. Okay, an extra centimeter sometimes does make a difference. I'm gonna have another tree to tiny bit of a gap. Okay, nice quirky gap. And then it's just leaning gently. And it's definitely going to be higher than the base of my second tree, maybe somewhere here. Okay. So I'm looking at that space, that diagonal already, that's mini diagonal. Maybe it's going to be deeper here, the darkness, and then just builds up on the top. Okay, and to balance these two trees, so that's going to almost like read similar. It's almost going to give me a double the width here with a highlight. But I have another one. Okay, not quite in the center of this space. I can paint the whole width of it straight away because it's going to be lit up. Maybe a tiny bit more ochre. And to be honest, that tree is there more or less straight away. For the rest of the painting and the trees, what I'll be interested in finding the rhythm of light and eventually dark. I'll come back to those two trees, but let's find it elsewhere. Something's going on. So if I'll start just picking up individual trees, might quite easily lose the whole composition and lose the whole arrangement of things. But if I look for, oops, somebody else is waiting for me. But if I look for just the highlights, okay, that's part of the tree. That is actually part of the tree. Another one is leaning. Okay, there are a couple more standing on the side. And these are lovely, nice branches as well. Okay, might need to look at that rhythm of them as well. That's quite a big one. There are loads of little ones, maybe quite high up.
Julia,
hello.
I'm just wondering if I've got the right image, because it's a really long, like.
Right, so let's keep sketching then. So I think I might need a bigger brush now. I'm gonna go for a larger flat brush rather than my sketching brush. Yes.
Sorry, just one more question. So is this
right? So medium flat brush. I'm gonna go for some extra highlights and to give me some sense of light and proportions and placements. So I still have a tiny bit of violet, quite a bit of white, but my ochre is a dominant color. So let's have a look at my big tree here at the front. Okay, it might be a little bit too yellowy for that tree. So let's have a hint of violet in it to have it a bit more pinky looking. Okay. And a little bit more water here as well to soften the whole edge here. And the other tree next to it, it's got a very interesting light on it. It's not on its right side like for this tree. I think it has a shadow on the right hand side from another tree, so it actually has the light right in the center. So again, it might be a little confusing first, but let's keep those colors where they are without even thinking why they might be there. Okay, so those golden ones there, let's just pick those ones up a bit more. I do a lot of squinting when there are loads of patterns coming up and they're not overly, they're quite broken down, so I'm trying to squint to see the whole picture at once, and that's always really helpful for me. Okay, so those golden ones are there. There's a little bit of light behind this one. Okay, so some of the basic, just golden trees, kind of tree trunks, nothing else. Maybe a tiny bit of branches, some of the paler branches. The snow is very pale as well, but I want to work with the snow slightly differently later. So far I'm interested into kind of the rhythm of the vertical lines. So let's have a look at a couple of branches with some snow here. For example, there's a nice little mark. Again, that might just be something which adds to the composition, or something I will try and maybe don't like. So that will be a perfect opportunity to explore if it's going to be an asset, or I need to leave it out. So some branches in this direction somewhere here. A small amount. Now I don't want to do all the branches everywhere. I want to have some sort of, again, if there is a movement going on through it, if there is a pattern to it, maybe it will be scooping something here together and having maybe like an ovally shape of some sort. Okay, this one is maybe leading out as well. Again, there are loads of branches at the bottom, but I'm not too interested into those. Right, something's here, but again, I don't want it to be too busy. Okay, maybe these ones will lead things forward. Okay. Right, I'm starting a little bit getting lost with similar lights, very similar tones, medium tones, so it's time to move on to the darks. Right, so the same two colors, violet and ochre. Let's keep my violet slightly darker. Actually, there's not as much of that violety brown color going on. There's quite a bit of blue, so I think I'm going to add some ultramarine to this dark color. It will cool it off. It's not going to be as warm, but it's still, the violet is still present and the ochre is still present there. Right, so some of the very dark tones are going to be for this tree. Okay, that's not dark enough. So more pigment, less white, and even possibly I might need to add some black. Yeah, that looks very strong, bluey violet color. So I need something like indigo, and that will be done very easily by adding black. So a little bit more chromatic colors, so not a pure hue, not a pure color. Okay, that looks very dark. Well, let's have a tiny bit of light into that by adding a hint of white so you can see the color better as well. So it's not just black, it has a hint of blue in it, it has a hint of violet in it. Okay, that's a, I don't know if it's similar on the screen or not, but that definitely doesn't look black on my surface here. Okay, let's get a nice diagonal for this. Too far. And I want to follow the angle here, a slight leaning, and also I've got a little bit of a shape of where the branch is coming out. Okay, maybe a bit lower where actually the branch is drawn, and that almost symmetrical shape, and then there is a highlight on the tree. Okay, so that might give me a slight change, but I can work with that. I can add shapes of light to it later on. But now it's going to start to belong to that shadowy area. Okay, so that's one of my darkest trees. So that's going to stay here. So I've identified one of my darkest trees. I can go tiny bit lighter for the tree behind. So it will stand out. Okay, that's too light. Doesn't make much difference. Okay. That darkness is going to be there. It actually stops higher. Almost halfway through my painting. Okay, some of those darks. Loads of my background in this section of the painting is going to be very light. So the trees are going to stand out as silhouettes. Very much like silhouettes. When here there might be more highlights and the trees will have a lot of light on them, and they will be just disappearing into the shadows. The tree trunks might not be seen well at all. Okay. So let's do this tree, which has a darker both sides of it. Okay, I'm painting it roughly for now to give me an idea of overall darknesses. Okay, that's maybe some of my levels of my branches. Okay, and this tree is going to be here. Let's just use a little diluted color. I'll work within its texture spread. Let's see how that light will be traveling. Across. Some nice knots. Again, all the rest is going to be part of the details later on. So in a way, I'm working into tones at the moment. There's a little bit of color present, but mainly into tones. Okay. So that is going to be my traveling light for this area. Okay, so that's gone away. Wonky. Very wonky. I was trying to cover one area and it's gone too far. Okay, it's me that I'll have to play with the background to trim it off at the later stage. Okay, let's do the play so it's not jumping. Oh shit. Don't take too much attention, and it started disrupting it a little bit too quickly. Otherwise, these ones are a little bit disrupting now. So I'll just tone them down. Okay, it's there, but it's not too much. Right, let's come back to the darks rather than jumping from one area to another. So some more darks are going to be for the trees. Yeah, let's find some of the reasons of them somewhere here. Darker tones across. Okay, and what I'm doing, I'm looking for darkness, and I'm also differentiating the light, so not the light, the color, and that's where my picture is still very broken. My whole composition is still very broken because I'm looking for tree trunks and I'm not painting any of the darker tones of the depths of the woodland, of the lights behind it, of the background number of trees, which has a very beautiful blue color there. Right, so I'm going to move into slightly bluey darkness. And look for those overall patterns. Let's check how dark that's going to be. Tiny bit more darker. Not as fresh blue as well. Okay. So let's just find some big chunks of blue. So the overall area, it looks like it might be going somewhere. Something like this. And then it all falls down super dark here. Okay, so that type of movement. Okay. So most of that is going to stay dark. So by making that decision, it allows me to see the whole rather than breaking into a lot of sub sections, the whole painting. Okay, I'm leaving some of these branches just to see a small amount of light, if that's going to be exciting or not. That's going to stay very dark. That's a little bit paler. Okay, again, I'm still looking for patterns. It's like similar to tree trunks. That might need to be changed. That one might need to be stopped somewhere here. So overall darkness. Is going to be through these areas. And I can subdivide the darkness into some extra tones. Okay, so it's darkness of the trees and darkness of the blues. Probably the blues are mainly the actual needles, the volume of the branches. Okay, here we have something. Alright, that's a tree, that's a space, that's a space. Okay, and if I'll use a slightly lighter color, type of color but much lighter, I can also start building up some of the shadows. Right, that's too pale, but it's probably going to be good. Yes, for some of the gaps here. So this is a type of painting which is quite hard to work on a very small scale, because the idea of losing so many vital elements within a smaller sketch might be losing the whole idea of why the painting is done. So that's the rhythm. So that's why I haven't done many small, let's say, pencil sketches or smaller watercolors. I really wanted to go not smaller than this size. So that's an A1 width-wise size. Okay, so that's the blue can go across here. Which I would normally quite happily do. But this is all that it's all about, the playfulness of the light, the playfulness of those blocks of subtones, which is quite difficult to work into too small scale. Okay, so we're slowly getting the gist for it here. Some beautiful pales, blues going to be on the side. The black by accident. Let's make a pale blue out of it. I need to make a nice glowing blue. Might be some nice glowing pale blue somewhere here, and I'm leaving the snow and the shadows as a later on reward to work out and enjoy. Okay, so that's how I can reshape the angle of my tree, which I wasn't overly happy with. Just gonna top up some blue, getting some cobalt blue. It doesn't want to come out. Okay. And some ultramarine. So I'm working the reasonably greyish blues at the moment. More chromatic colours. And then I'll start adding fresher colours as I clarify the areas where I want them to be. Okay, let's have a look how this looks. Yes, it's a fresher blue. So I might just have a small amount of it at a time. So that's going to be almost the back of that tree. Again, if I've gone too far, I can bring my tree trunk a little bit more back, which probably is going to be the case. So far, I'm going to start developing my strokes. Okay, some nice paler blues. Traveling across. Okay, that's a bit too dark again. It just looks like there's a tiny bit of it somewhere here. I just want that mysterious blue color. I haven't quite done one of those Woodland paintings yet with mysterious blue. However, I've got some really exciting ideas for them. Okay, that's a nice blue as well. And now I need to be careful not to start making all the blue going in lines. I need to find the pattern for it, how it's maybe going through the branches. Maybe it's will be going through, kind of connecting. Say maybe some of that light will be just catching on some of the branches here. In between the two trees. So I keep working with one color and then maybe over exaggerating it, maybe over bringing it before I reduce it to the amount is finally required. Okay, there's some first highlights going to start happening. Some of these highlights going to be super strong light. So for example, some of that area is going to stay light. So I went from one extreme to another. I go for some whites now. Not the most pale ones, but just a pattern of overall lights. It might just help me out. Find my blues a bit more, find my silhouettes a bit more. And that's all definitely linked to my snow and brings me looking lower. That's going to have lots of shadows on this.
Is it phthalo blue, Julia?
That's a cobalt blue with a bit of ultramarine. I think there's still a bit of black. So no, not phthalo blue yet. I want that left maybe till the last moment. I want to have it as fresh in small quantities. Right, I think I know what I'm doing wrong here. So I need a pattern of light coming a bit more across this way. Okay, something's there. Some of these branches create some light. Do I still want that light there or not? Possible. Okay, that's definitely has some golden colors to support it. Okay, let's go for some stronger lights on the foreground. So let's do some of the bigger shadows. Tiny bit darker. That's ultramarine. And whatever I had in my brush. Let's link some of the patterns of the snow. Okay, maybe that tree will be a tiny bit more narrower. There are loads of plants under the snow, so for the moment I'm not interested in that. I'll work under that beautiful pattern, almost crochet-like pattern. Slightly later, so far I want to find a big volume of cool shadows. Okay, that's a nice, very dark one. So under this tree, okay, that's gives me an idea where some of the other trees might need to be, which need to be lower. I left some of them a bit too high. And these shadows going diagonally still across. Okay, maybe some of that shadow might start having extra darkness as well. So I've got a gentle diagonal going up there. I've got much more reduced diagonal going down here. Some of these darknesses will need to come up here as well. Just trying to think if this distance is too great. If I might need to bring this tree a little bit more close. I think that might be a good solution for the composition. Let me just step back. Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. So it doesn't matter at this stage. I haven't spent too much time on that area anyway, but very crucial if kind of to stop yourself and move it. Maybe I move it and it's not gonna work. But I'd like to try it. So if I move it a bit more further here. And then I'll gain some space on the other side. I'm just exaggerating the colors so I can just see what I want to keep as shapes. Okay, so again, some extra light here, and I think that's will be moved as well. So then that beautiful light over here is not going to be squashed. It's going to have a bit more stronger presence. Stand a tree at the back. Again, it doesn't make might not make quite sense. But once the shapes come together, it's well. Okay, now I'm gonna go for some big highlights on the snow just to start gaining some space and extra volume of what's going on. Right, so let's go for just an off-white, tiny bit of cobalt blue and mainly white. So again, I'm still painting very much like tonal, looking at the major tones. So there's some nice key highlights of those, all these areas, quite exciting. So if I'll leave some of the violet background as part of the pattern here of the plants, creating the interesting silhouettes. And there is another big shape somewhere here. So by doing that, I'm giving an idea what surface that is, how far the shapes are away from each other, so that gives me perspective. The size of those swirly shapes, patterns will get smaller and more intricate further away. Give me some space, build up. So this is exactly where again I'm doing loads of squinting with my eyes to see overall shapes. Excuse me. Trying to keep my strokes flat in texture because I'm only finding my first impressions, first takes. So if I'll have too much texture initially and I'm wrong, it's harder to fix things later. Some light between those two trees as well. this brush is around. Just want those streaks to be there. Just comes out a bit too light. Okay, maybe this tree needs to be further away. Gives a nice then distance, sharing distance between the two. Spaces, and again I spotted as I do different patterns of, so for example on the lights, that's how I seen that space here. Okay, that's good, give me an extra distance, keep it a little bit more vague. Okay, that's a nice, again, so if I've got that diagonal going, just calm it down. Then this still follows a similar maybe direction to a certain extent. So I'm just going for direct same darkness for this snow. I'm not differentiating it much because again I'm interested in the overall shape for it, overall dynamics of it. Right, let's have a look how the snow is going to start connecting to some of the highlights in the background. And which area is going to be having more focus or having more light or having more. Okay, so this is definitely going to be super nice and strong light. Let's just put a couple of those accents of extra light as a reminder. So it's a couple of these real front shapes. And something like that I will be developing within my large painting, but for now, that will be enough information. Okay, that's will be again a directional information. Right, anything else light here? Yes. Big chunks and blocks. Maybe a very small amount. Maybe just touching things up. Then if I'll start really looking, I will find anything what's just not even there. So I need to be extra careful with that, right? I think that should be enough of light on the snow. If I'll keep something pale here, it might just travel across. That's will be that traveling movement. And then I'll see how dark these shadows are. Maybe some of them will be paler. Otherwise, they're a little bit competing with the tree trunks. Right, some highlights on maybe sky. What's the light behind some of the tree trunks? Let's have a look at those highlights. So the lightest ones look somewhere here. It might not be in the right color, but let's just find that excitement. I really like this branch here as well, but it's here on the photograph, but it might not end up on my painting because it looks like it just cuts across this beautiful light. So maybe that branch compositionally needs to be moved somewhere else higher. But just otherwise it spears this nice natural light. So maybe I'll move it higher up afterwards. Okay, so that light is there. There will be a dark, looks like some sort of bush. Okay, maybe a tiny bit of light. Across. Definitely some nice block of light with gaps between some of the trees. And that's why I've ended up that widening this area, so we can have some light here as well. Okay, maybe this diagonal might not be the one. Maybe it's will be the opposite, taking it that way. And extra branches here will help me to show that. So it's finishing the whole piece here. Yeah. So I've got an entry point for the composition coming here, following these plants under the snow, following the tree, maybe the light here, then turning around, following the highlights of the branches, following the dark shadow, maybe catching up on that branch here as well, and then just coming down again, and then maybe staying here. Okay, so I need to build up my golden trees in contrast of the blues here. So I've got this spiral going, elongated oval type of spiral, and I want it to stay here. Okay. So now I'm understanding it more. So the rest are playing nuances and finding those overall shapes. For example, some of this blue could be paler higher. Now, with more confidence, going to make the decisions because it will be justified by my overall concept of why is it happening, or why is it happening here, or right, if I'll just go a bit too dark in that area, it doesn't matter. Just want to bring some of that.
Sorry, Julia, is this ultramarine?
That is cobalt blue. Yes, cobalt blue with some white. But it's cobalt blue with some white is almost like, yeah, ultramarine with extra white in it. Yeah. Good thinking there, Gabrielle. Right, just trying to decide what's going to happen here. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of the very dark shadows with ultramarine and black. Just making them slightly, yeah, it looks almost identical color for the cobalt blue. So cobalt blue in my case, more or less here, diluted with white ultramarine. Okay, that would be much calmer shadows. They're not so jumpy. Same part of these ones. Doesn't mean that they're not going to have eventually extra darkness in them, but at the moment they are much more calmer. I quite still like some of the violet background present. I like that a lot. Right, let's have a look where that paler, kind of a darker bluey color still coming across. Right, and this one needs to go down. Okay, so this could go all the way down. Yeah, I need to start coming back to the tree trunks here because I'm losing the darkness and it's difficult to see if the light in that area is too overwhelming. It's simply because there is no tree trunks there. Okay, well, there is let's put that tree, that bush somewhere here. This gives a shadow. And it also gives a contrast with the snow eventually. Right, before I move back into my trees, I'm going to increase some of the color of the shadow by using the ultramarine and black, mainly on the foreground. I'm just going to wipe my brush off extra white in it, otherwise it's not going to let me do it. And maybe a small amount of even violet in there, just to have that stronger color. So for example, then that tree is coming together with the pattern of the shadow. So I don't want it to be tree on its own, shadow on its own. They need to belong to each other. Might not be the best silhouette for it, but I'm looking for the moment for that connection of the tones. Okay, so that's connecting over here. Some of these going to have some extra nice little marks. Again, I'm not too worried about the exact position of them. I'm more interested in their presence and dynamic, how much they might be scattered. Okay. Or how many of them I will lose. That again gives me an idea of fluffiness of the snow. I don't want to tell everything, all the story here. Okay, that might be a nice shape. It slowly becomes alive. Okay, now the too dark here. That's a bit focusing too much with the on that scale, kind of on that area. So I need to reduce the darkness. Again, I can follow it everywhere and find loads of dark tones, a bit here and a bit there and somewhere else. But I'm going to limit that amount. Right, there's something tiny darker here. That's where my tree is going to stand. So I'm going to have to bring this tree back. Tiny bit more water to float the paint. Okay. Bringing that light back here. Well, just a little over painted. And just quite nice to have that light there just to show that gap. Might not be as perfectly straight eventually, but it has that movement. And there is light behind it there as well. Just too many similar lines here. Again, something I need to consider afterwards. Right, so overall snow is finished here. Let's give it a little break. There might be some more highlights to the snow further back, but there might be smaller quantities once the tree's been worked back. That might be clearer to see. Last part, some of the paint will dry, it will be easier to track it. Because they will be small, they will just be playful and quite easy to work with. The main highlights of the snow are staying somewhere at the front here. Okay, so that's just drying differently there. Okay, right. Right, let's explore the tree trunks here again. I'm not gonna go for any extra colors for now. I'm gonna stay with the same I already have. So ochre and violet and some white. So for the tree trunks, I probably don't need to have much blue. Let's just work into those colors. Possibly we'll get some crimson, but I'll start more into the violety pink Okay. Okay, I think I'm picking up some blue, so my paint looks very green, so I think I might have to go for my crimson. Have a little bit of heat in it. Otherwise, the amount of blue I have around is very, very cold, making the paints quite cool. Right, so crimson, ochre, and some violet. Right, that still looks too. So these are my colors here. So crimson, ochre, and still small amount of violet. So unless I'm happy with the color, I'm not gonna go with it on the painting, otherwise it's going to be extra frustrating. Okay, that's a better one. I just tested somewhere here. Yes, okay. So it looks very dark color here, yeah, on my painting. Actually, looking at the screen might not be a big difference, but it does picks up very sunny, very lit up, charged with kind of warmth, the energy of the warmth. So that's what I'll start working on. I'll start identifying some of that heat, which will be springing back from the blue background. Okay, that's what's that tree. Might be some of these trees might be a little bit too strong in this orangey color. I can cool them off. Again, I'm more interested now in the rhythm and overall light. Kind of gaps in between those spaces. What's going to be taller? What's going to be slightly narrower, wider? Don't want to get lost in the amount of trees I'm painting. So I need to follow a little bit of that accuracy, but at the same time, I don't want to be too precise. Now, not all of the tree is going to have that extra warmth. Tiny bit more darker color. Same version, just slightly darker. I'm just adding slightly more violet, tiny bit more crimson. Okay, maybe even more violet here. To see some of the darker tones on top. Okay, this tree will have different attention. I think that needs a lot more ochre. It shouldn't have too much pink in it. I'm going to try to find the strengths of the light. There's more pink there. I should have done that when I had it on my brush. Okay, let's see its shape again. Let's see how the tree next to it is going to work. So sometimes that warmth, let's say that pink is not quite there on the tree. However, if I paint on top of that pinky violety color later, at the later stages, it will be covered partially, but it might be just creeping through some of the layers. It just gives me enough light from underneath. It does create a beautiful effect, so I'm going to exaggerate it, knowing that I will paint over it. And all I'll be looking for is a minute gaps between the texture of the bark. I think that will be a really nice feel for it then. So I've just used the extras, the amount and the extra color. Strengths. Tiny bit more darkness at the bottom, but again I'll have to come back with the highlights. Quite like some of those purples. Again, they will not going to be a strong, having a strong presence later. I think they have that extra depth. Let me step back. Okay, so let's now see how this violet could work next to some of the trees here. Right, and now I can go for a much darker color now for the trees. So I'm adding a small amount of kind of a similar violety black, violety bluey black color to my purpley pinky color. Let's so it just looks slightly duller violet now, plus tiny bit darker. Lost and found edges. Okay, for the tree trunks on their own, it might need to be even darker than that. Still looks too pale. The silhouette of the tree could be returned back with some of this black or very dark tone. And have some of these marks. We'll start gently connecting. I'll put a paler color here. Okay, okay, it might be a bit too much, but it will give me a reminder that it's somewhere there. Quite like those blocks of darkness on the pine trees. There's such a character building shapes. They're a little bit too strong here for the moment, the contrasts. So I'm working with the light, with the shadows, with the texture, and I shouldn't be rushing really. Okay, let's leave this one to dry and come back to where I was. For the tree trunks, get carried away very easily. All the areas need to be attended. Okay, let's create some different types of gaps. Black. Stretch some of this darkness out. So these are quite nice dark areas, but I can do it even darker. For example, when I need to go back over some of the blues. Okay, this tree now needs to start taking shape. Okay, maybe too strong darkness now. I meant to put some of that dark above some of these blacks, some of the dark blues, so that becomes a bit too dark. Let's come back to it. So reshape gently this tree. So if I want to have that branch higher, I might need to put this wider part of the tree a little bit higher as well. Again, I just keep supporting myself with building up the silhouettes, going back into light and darks. Okay, that's not going to be there, that's going to be higher. Right, where's some of my golden trees now? Really, truly golden. So that's going to be that tree with extra light on it. With extra light, again, maybe not full strength yet, but it just gives me an idea. Also, just stay within its silhouette a little more. Okay, so that's starting to look a little bit more as a unified form, this tree, rather than just broken down. Okay, all these ones again will be building up at some point later on. Maybe a little bit more of a differentiation just to show how wide or thin the tree is. Right, any more lovely golden trees? That's the one. Maybe somewhere little here. So again, I'm still going very vague and pattern-like. I'm not painting accurately the trees, way far from it. That extra accuracy might not even come to this sketch. Right, what's going on with these three almost identical lines? That's what I'm interested in, to spotting that differentiation, spotting that variety, spotting that something. Okay, that's maybe too much. But a bit of light in this area will be good. Maybe even not this. Some of this paler color dries out, again dull and darker, but it gives me more time to think and plan. So if I did go elsewhere too strongly, too quickly, that will cool it off. If it's missing, it will keep calling me, and I'll definitely know it's need to be more present. Yeah, it's a slow process. But now this golden light hopefully will start being in a nice competition with the pale blues. All the way across. Okay, my brush is splitting, which actually gives me a good texture from it. Okay, some pale blue again needed there. You can feel the second I'm starting being quiet. It means that some good decisions are coming up in my mind, and I just want to get going with it. I think some of the golden colors might even come across. Tiny bit on the snow. Might be a little bit too strong now, but with some extra white in the right time, some warmth on the snow might be a possibility. I'll just add a bit more white here. A bit more white with my paler ochres, just to have a minor experiment with the snow temperature. Okay, that's a bolder white, but it's not only bolder white, it's bolder because it's got warmth in it. Okay, I quite like that. That's a tiny bit more. At the front. Again, it gives that sense of distance. If it dries too yellow or too pale, again, it will give me a final decision if it's too much or if it's acceptable. Or if it is going to be a vital key to my snow. Those are going to be lines, lines, lines. And somewhere here it might be more of a block. And gaps the other way. Again, quite happily could be painting the strokes here, whichever direction feels right, looking at the reference photograph. But I know composition wise, I need to start working it a bit more that way, a bit more lower way. So it's maybe some frosty corners. Or some of that golden blue light. Again, if I'll go a bit too much, because I'm introducing the next strength of color, I don't mind losing the precise silhouettes which I might have worked before. That's why I'm doing them. That's how I'm losing the shape of that trees, because I'm getting more and more highlights in this area. Okay, I need to be careful and pay attention to that in the future. Right, let's follow some of this light a little more spontaneous. You know what, that looks much more fun if I can settle it in eventually. With the mingled blue colors. I'm almost coming up to the end for tonight, so a quick look at the time, maybe a couple of more minutes. So if anybody's got any questions, well, I'm just doing a few last things for tonight. Yeah, those are quite nice lights here. Again, the playful brush stroke might be the key to some of the ordinary patterns become more kind of that, not a fairy tale forest, but a bit more of a mystery to it. A little bit more this looks a bit playful, this looks a bit more boring. Again, something needs to be worked or adjusted, thought through. So this could be even longer. That might be nice. Nice way of connecting it. Again, if my line's going to start being too wide, I don't mind that for finding that path of, do I need them there, or how much of them do I need? Yeah, I know I can build up some of those darker blues again. That's not the point. The point is being brave at this stage and mingle and work and explore and make those mistakes or make those discoveries or exclude something or bring something new or find those decisions. Right, I think I'm going to be stopping at this for tonight. Let's put that one there. Okay, now I know where it's going to be. It's going to stay here, so then the light will stay behind it. And I'll work into the whole shape of those trees then. Right, still quite a lot to do on this sketch, but I'm definitely much more clearer. The overall decisions, what I'm going to do with the composition. It might not be technically there yet, way far from it. Maybe some of it started being a bit more broken too much, but I'm quite happy with the range of colors started to appear. I'm starting to be much more happy with the livelier mark making, creating that more bubbly, a bit more playful light, which exactly that's what it was here. I'm more interested into that rhythm of the big trees and the smaller ones. I'm already starting thinking about some of them, even possibly music coming up with it. So happy with this stage, quite a bit of work to do, and very possible for this piece to be one of my larger canvases. So I have I'm going to have 8 very, very large canvases, 1 meter by 2 meters. And I've got, I think, about over 16 sketches now, so I'll need to narrow them down to the 8. So that's a possibility of one of them there as well. Right. Thank you very much for tonight.
Thank you, Julia.
You've been a very fantastic audience again.
Thank you very much.
It's been lovely having you.
Thank you.
Thank you.